I've been working as a canine handler for nearly 9 years now. My partner is a 4-year-old German Shepherd named Rex. He's trained in both tracking and narcotics detection, and he's extremely reliable. He doesn't get scared easily. I've taken him into warehouses, abandoned houses, and even deep woods at night, and he has always remained calm and steady. That's exactly why what happened that night has stayed with me ever since. We were called in to assist patrol officers during a house search after a suspect had fled on foot nearby. Officers had tried to stop a man a few blocks away, but he ran. They chased him through several backyards, but eventually lost sight of him close to this particular property. When they checked the area, they found the side gate to the yard open, and the back door of the house was unlocked. On top of that, neighbors had reported hearing what sounded like a struggle coming from the backyard, which made the situation more urgent. Patrol officers cleared the first floor of the house, but they didn't feel confident enough to declare it safe. They believed the suspect might have forced his way inside and could still be hiding somewhere in the house. Rex and I arrived at the scene about 20 minutes later. The house was a 2-story building located in a quiet suburban neighborhood. There were no visible signs of forced entry at the front of the house. The officers on scene gave me a quick briefing. Basically, there were no clear signs of a struggle inside, just the open access point at the back and the fact that the suspect had disappeared within a very short distance from the property. I put Rex on a short leash and gave him the command to search. He immediately pulled forward, moving quickly from room to room on the first floor. We checked the living room first. Clear. Then the kitchen. Also clear. After that, the laundry room. Nothing there either. So we made our way upstairs. The upper floor had a narrow hallway with 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. The air upstairs felt still. No fresh air. No breeze. All the windows were closed, which made sense since the homeowners weren't in town. Rex and I entered the first bedroom. Nothing. Then the second bedroom, also clear. After that, he began pulling toward the bathroom at the end of the hallway. I stepped inside and quickly looked around. Everything appeared clean and in order. Nothing looked out of place. Rex started sniffing around, along the floor, near the vanity, and around the edges of the room. Then suddenly he froze, his ears shot forward, and his entire body stiffened. A low growl came from him as he stared toward the bathroom door, looking out into the hallway. That growl quickly turned into barking. He was focused on something outside the bathroom. I stepped backward out of the bathroom with him and quietly asked, "What is it?" Rex remained locked onto something down the hallway. At the far end, near the last bedroom door, I saw what he was reacting to. There was a figure standing there. It was tall, dark, and completely still. It didn't look like any of the officers who were downstairs. If it had been one of them, they would have identified themselves or at least made their presence known. I announced myself as police and stated that I had a canine with me. There was no response at all. Then I asked directly, "Who is that?" Still nothing. Rex began pulling backward, away from the hallway, something I had never seen him do before. He clearly did not want to go toward whatever was standing there. Then, without a word, the figure turned and walked into the bedroom at the end of the hall. I knew every officer on the scene, and I knew their positions. None of them were upstairs with me. When I tried to move forward, Rex planted his feet firmly and pulled back hard. He absolutely refused to go down that hallway. I drew my weapon and spoke into my radio, saying that I might have located the suspect in the bedroom at the end of the hall and requested backup to come upstairs. I began pulling Rex forward, but he resisted the entire time. He kept looking up at me, as if he didn't understand why I was forcing him to move toward that room. When we reached the bedroom doorway, he refused to step inside with me. I entered the room first, with my weapon raised. But the room was empty. Completely empty. There was just a bed against one wall and a dresser across from it. Nothing else. I waited for the other officers to come upstairs before fully clearing the room. When they arrived, we searched everything. No one was inside. No one was hiding under the bed. The window was closed. The closet was empty. There was no attic access or crawl space. Rex stayed in the hallway the entire time. He refused to enter the room. I expected the others to question what I saw, but when they saw Rex's behavior, they took it seriously. One of the officers even tried to coax him into the room, but he wouldn't move. We thoroughly searched every inch of that bedroom. We checked the walls for hidden panels. We searched the bathroom again. We rechecked the other bedrooms. There was absolutely nothing. No hidden entry. No escape route. If it weren't for Rex, I honestly would have thought I imagined the whole thing. After about 20 minutes, I told the team I needed to get Rex out of the house. But before we left, he kept glancing back down the hallway toward that bedroom. The moment we stepped outside into the night air, he relaxed a little. Once he was back in his crate, he curled up immediately, but something felt off. He didn't look at me the way he normally does after a search. Patrol wrapped things up shortly after that. I've replayed that moment in my mind countless times. Part of me believes it was a real person, possibly the suspect, but I don't understand how they got out of that room, or why Rex reacted the way he did. Some people might say that what Rex and I saw was something paranormal. All I know is this: Rex has never reacted like that before, and he hasn't reacted that way since. He's tracked dangerous suspects without hesitation, and has gone into far more intense situations than that house. But that room? He wouldn't go inside, and I trust that dog more than I trust my own instincts. Almost every officer in the department has at least one call they can't explain. That night was mine. When I turned 21, I joined the police force in a remote town that I'd rather not name. The department was short on officers, and at the time, I was a young father who needed money, so the timing worked out perfectly for me. Since I was new, I got assigned to the night shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The other officers at the station would sometimes joke about my schedule, saying I always ended up with the worst shifts. But honestly, I didn't mind. I've always been more comfortable staying up at night. Most nights were pretty routine. I'd handle speeding violations, stop the occasional drunk driver, and spent long stretches sitting in my cruiser listening to podcasts. In a strange way, it was actually kind of peaceful. But about a year into the job, something happened that completely changed everything. One night, a severe thunderstorm hit the town. The rain was intense, and it caused major power outages across the area. Flooding started affecting many of the main roads. I decided to park my cruiser in a central parking lot so I could respond quickly if any accident reports came in. Around 2 a.m., our dispatcher, Claire, radioed in with a call. She said that someone, who sounded like an adult male, had reported being kidnapped. According to her, the caller claimed he was being held captive inside someone's house. Then the call suddenly disconnected. When Claire tried to call back, there was no answer. I checked the built-in computer in my cruiser to see the call details. Based on the address, I was only about 10 minutes away, meaning I was the closest unit. I radioed back, confirmed I would respond, and requested backup. Another officer, Chris, who was also fairly new, responded and said he'd be there in about 5 minutes. Claire came back over the radio, but there was a pause before she spoke, like she was unsure about something. Then she added an important detail. She said, the caller sounded like he was altering his voice somehow, possibly using some kind of digital effect to make himself sound like a child. She specifically said, like a young girl. She advised us to proceed with extreme caution. That detail made the situation feel even more unsettling. We all knew each other pretty well at the station, so during high-risk calls like this, there was always a sense of concern for each other. I acknowledged the call and started driving toward the location. When I entered the neighborhood, I immediately noticed something was off. Every streetlight was out. The entire block had lost power, leaving the area in near total darkness. That meant visibility inside the house would be limited, which made everything more dangerous. I followed my GPS to the end of the street and saw that Chris had already arrived. His cruiser was parked in front of the house. I pulled up next to him and rolled down my window. Chris made a comment about how bad the house looked. I looked at it myself. The grass was overgrown. Nearly knee-high, thick bushes blocked the windows. The roof had visible damage with missing shingles and dents. It looked abandoned, or at least severely neglected. That alone raised red flags. You can often judge a person's mental state by the condition of their home. I told Chris I'd take the lead. We both stepped out into the pouring rain, opened our umbrellas, and walked up a muddy path toward the front door. Chris turned on his flashlight. In situations like this, the second officer's role is to watch the suspect closely, monitoring their behavior while the lead officer handles communication. If anything goes wrong, they step in immediately. Chris was solid, calm, observant, and reliable. That allowed me to focus completely on the situation. When we reached the door, I rang the bell. Then we waited. A few seconds later, we heard footsteps approaching from inside. Then they stopped. Whoever was on the other side of that door just stood there, not moving, listening, watching. A strange feeling came over me. Like we were being observed, my eyes slowly shifted toward the peephole. The moment I looked at it, something moved behind it. A distorted shape pulled away, like someone had been staring at us and quickly stepped back. If you're inside, we need to ask you some questions. Please open the door, I called out. There was another pause. Then the lock clicked. The door slowly creaked open, but only slightly. A man peeked out from the darkness. He looked to be in his early 30s, overweight, balding, wearing thick-framed glasses. The moment I looked into his eyes, something felt off, like he was hiding something. I explained that we had received a call from his address, someone claiming they had been kidnapped. The man acted confused. He apologized and said it must have been a pocket dial. I pressed him on it. If it was a pocket dial, how do you explain the voice we heard? For just a second, he looked away. Then he said he didn't know anything about it. I asked if anyone else was inside the house. He said no, he lived alone. I told him that for safety reasons, we needed to check inside. He refused, not without a warrant. So I went back to my cruiser, contacted dispatch, and requested a telephonic warrant. Within about 5 minutes, Claire came back and confirmed the judge had approved it. We were cleared to enter. I returned to the door and showed the warrant. The man hesitated, then slowly opened the door wider. His hands were shaking. I turned on my flashlight and stepped inside. The smell hit me instantly. It was foul, rotten. I scanned the area. There was a hallway straight ahead and a room to the right. I shined my light into that room. It was a living room, but it was filthy. Clothes piled everywhere. Stacks of dirty dishes covered the floor. Cockroaches crawling across them. A worn-out couch sat crooked against the wall. This was clearly where he lived. I'd seen similar conditions before, often in drug-related cases. When I turned back to the man, he looked uneasy. I made a mental note to check for drugs later. Then I moved toward the hallway. My foot hit something. I looked down. It was a pink Barbie doll playhouse. I recognized it immediately. I had bought the exact same one for my daughter the previous Christmas. I asked the man if he had kids. He said no. Then he added that his nieces sometimes visited, so he kept toys around. Chris and I exchanged a look. There was no way any parent would let children stay in a place like this. I gave the man one last chance. "Is there anyone else in this house?" He insisted there wasn't. I continued down the hallway. He tried to follow me, but Chris grabbed him and told him to stay put. There were 2 open rooms and 1 closed door at the end. I checked the first room. More toys, diapers. Then I saw a shape in the corner. It looked like a person sitting in a rocking chair. I drew my weapon, then realized it was a doll, a life-size doll, dressed in women's clothes. On the bed next to it, neatly folded piles of clothes. Blouses, jeans, even lingerie. Everything was organized by color, while the rest of the house was filthy. Something about that room felt deeply wrong. I cleared it and moved on. The second room was empty. Then I reached the final door. The man called out from behind me, suggesting I check upstairs instead. I told him I would, but first I was checking the basement. He became more agitated. Chris warned him again to stay still. I grabbed the handle, opened the door. It creaked loudly. A staircase led down into complete darkness. I shined my flashlight down but could barely see anything. Then I heard something, a rattling noise from deeper inside. I told Chris I heard movement. The man began apologizing repeatedly, but at that point it was clear. He was lying. Someone was down there. I had no choice. I started going down the stairs. Each step creaked under my weight. The sound from below grew louder. Behind me, the man begged us to stop. I reached the bottom, scanned the area, boxes, furniture. Then I saw another door across the room. The noise was coming from there. I drew my weapon, ordered whoever was inside to come out with their hands up. Silence. I repeated the command. Still nothing. I moved closer, carefully. Positioned myself beside the door. Then I grabbed the handle, opened it, prepared to fire if necessary. But nothing came out. I took a breath, then looked inside. What I saw, I won't describe in detail. But a man, mid-40s, was being held captive. A father of 3, missing for months. Everyone thought he was dead. He had been trapped there for 2 years. That night, the suspect made a mistake. He left his phone behind while bringing food. The victim used Siri to call 911. By the time we arrived, he had been restrained again. That's why he didn't respond earlier. He was too scared to move. We arrested the homeowner immediately. The victim was taken to the hospital. He survived, but one thing still haunts me. Why did he sound like a child on the phone? The only explanation I can think of is he had been forced to speak that way for so long that it became the only way he could talk. And if that was true, then what else had he been forced to do?